The Roman Empire was once the mightiest empire the world had ever seen. At its peak, it stretched over 3,000 miles, commanding nearly a quarter of the world's population under its rule. Its army of legions were unstoppable, its cities glittering with grandeur and architectural wonders. Its global influence in trade and culture was unparalleled. Its cities were so advanced that it took over 1,000 years before Europe was able to even come close to replicating their sewage systems, aqueducts, and architecture. So how did this colossal powerhouse of civilization fall from complete dominance to utter ruin? What chain of events caused this empire, which reigned over vast stretches of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, to vanish into the annals of history, leaving only ruins and whispers of its former glory? The Roman Empire endured for over 1,000 years, an eternity by any standard. Yet its fall wasn't a singular cataclysm but a slow, agonizing descent, an unraveling as inevitable as it was tragic. It was the disintegration of an entire world order, and marked not just the end of an empire but the end of an era. At its peak during the 2nd century CE, under emperors like Trajan and Marcus Aurelius, Rome was the pinnacle of human achievement. Its borders stretched farther than anyone had dreamed, connecting a sprawling web of cultures, trade routes, and territories. Its cities were adorned with grand monuments, its roads crisscrossed continents, and its armies seemed unstoppable. Yet, by the 3rd century, the Golden Age began to tarnish. Cracks appeared in Rome's seemingly unassailable foundations as civil wars, economic instability, and external invasions turned from occasional disruptions into existential threats. One of the first pillars to collapse was Rome's economy. For centuries, wealth flowed into the empire from its conquests, but as expansion slowed, so too did this critical lifeline. Trade routes, once the arteries of Rome's prosperity, became increasingly unsafe due to piracy and constant warfare. Essential goods like grain, olive oil, and precious metals became scarce. To make matters worse, emperors desperate to fund their armies began debasing the currency, mixing silver and gold coins with cheaper metals. This led to rampant inflation, eroding the value of money and plunging ordinary Romans into hardship. The Roman denarius, once a symbol of stability, became nearly worthless. For the urban poor, life became a daily struggle for survival, and even the wealthy began to retreat into their fortified estates, leaving the cities to decay. The Roman military, once the empire's pride and backbone, also began to crumble. Discipline, loyalty, and organization had been the hallmarks of the Roman legions, but by the 4th and 5th centuries, these qualities were in short supply. With fewer citizens willing to serve and a declining population, Rome turned to foreign mercenaries, often from Germanic tribes, to fill its ranks. These soldiers for hire fought not out of allegiance to Rome, but for the promise of pay, often switching sides when it suited them. The legions became a shadow of their former glory, fragmented and unreliable. This military decline left Rome vulnerable to the relentless waves of barbarian invasions. These invasions were devastating. The Goths, Vandals, Huns, and Franks all saw opportunities to exploit Rome's weakened state. The Visigoths, under their leader Alaric, delivered a catastrophic blow in 410 CE when they sacked the city of Rome itself. For a city that had stood as the unassailable heart of the empire, this event sent shockwaves across the ancient world. The Eternal City, once thought invincible, lay in ruins, its treasures plundered, and its people terrorized. Though the empire would continue for several more decades, the sack of Rome symbolized the beginning of the end. While external threats battered Rome, internal decay corroded it from within. Political instability was rampant. Between 235 and 284 CE, Rome endured the so-called crisis of the 3rd century, during which over 20 emperors ruled, most meeting violent ends. These constant power struggles shattered any sense of continuity or stability. Provincial governors and military commanders carved out their own territories, often acting as independent rulers rather than loyal servants of the empire. Corruption became the norm, and the central government's authority dwindled. Meanwhile, Roman society itself was fraying. The divide between the wealthy elite and the struggling masses grew insurmountable. The rich retreated to their countryside villas, insulating themselves from the chaos that engulfed the cities. Public services, the aqueducts, baths, and roads that had once symbolized Roman ingenuity, fell into neglect. The grandeur of Rome's urban centers faded, replaced by disrepair and despair. With no leadership to inspire hope, many turned to religion for solace, particularly Christianity, which had gained significant traction by the 4th century. The rise of Christianity marked a profound shift in Roman identity. Emperor Constantine's conversion and the subsequent adoption of Christianity as the empire's official religion altered the social fabric of Rome. While Christianity provided spiritual guidance and unity for many, it also disrupted traditional Roman institutions. Pagan temples were abandoned, rituals forgotten, and the gods of Rome cast aside. The Church, now a powerful institution, sometimes prioritized theological debates over the practical needs of the empire. This transformation left Rome caught between its pagan past and Christian future, a divide that only deepened its sense of fragmentation. By the time the Western Roman Empire officially fell in 476 CE, and the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by the barbarian leader Odoacer, Rome had already become a shell of its former self. The fall wasn't a sudden cataclysm, but a slow, agonizing decline. Cities emptied as people fled to rural areas in search of stability. Trade networks collapsed, leaving economies in ruins. Literacy and education, once hallmarks of Roman civilization, dwindled, plunging Europe into what would later be called the Dark Ages. For the Roman people, the collapse was more than just a political or economic disaster. It was the end of a way of life. The roads, aqueducts, and forums that had once pulsed with activity became silent ruins. The grandeur of Rome, the idea of Rome, was reduced to a memory. The world's greatest empire had fallen, and with it, the dream of eternal dominance. Yet, in its fall, Rome left behind a powerful legacy. Its language, architecture, laws, and cultural ideals continued to shape the world for centuries. But its decline serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of even the mightiest civilizations. Rome's downfall was not inevitable. It was the result of choices, mismanagement, and neglect. It stands as a lesson that no empire, no matter how powerful, is immune to collapse. What makes Rome's story so haunting is its relevance. Economic instability, political corruption, social inequality, and external threats are not problems confined to the past. They are challenges faced by modern societies today. Rome's fall is not just a historical event, it is a mirror, reflecting the vulnerabilities of every civilization that grows too complacent, too divided, or too distracted to recognize its own fragility. Rome's last days were marked by despair, but they also offer a glimmer of hope. In its ruins, new ideas were born, new cultures emerged, and the seeds of future empires were sown. Yet the haunting question remains: if Rome, the greatest empire of its time, could fall, what makes us think our world is immune? In the story of Rome's fall, we see both the heights humanity can achieve and the depths to which it can descend when it loses sight of what truly sustains greatness. Could the lessons of Rome save us from a similar fate, or are we doomed to repeat its mistakes? Only time will tell. If you enjoyed our exploration of the fall of Rome, we know you'll love our other Rise of Humans episodes on your screen and on our channel page, and I invite you back for our next episode of the Rise of Humans.